Welcome to the AI for Interior Designers podcast, where creativity meets cutting-edge technology. In each episode, we dive deep into the world of artificial intelligence and explore how it's revolutionizing the interior design industry. From AI-powered design tools to the latest trends and innovations, we've got you covered. So plug in, relax, and let's embark on this exciting journey together. Welcome to AI for Interior Designers podcast. P.S. This intro was written by and voiced by AI to sound like your host, Jenna Gaidusek.
Hey designers, welcome back for episode 58 of the AI for Interior Designers podcast. I'm your host, Jenna Gaidusek, and today I have another very special guest. It's like all my special guests finally got time this summer to record with me because it's been a long time coming for a lot of these. I met Brian back in, I want to say it was July of last year, 2024. He is a member of the IDS Long Island chapter. I was brought out there for one of my favorite events. Don't tell anybody else, but they had it catered, Italian cater, and it was outside under a tent. And it was just like so well received and so many great people there. But, you know, the catering was awesome. So only great things to say about IDS Long Island. Hope to be back out there again soon. But it was also a great time for me to be able to connect with Brian about photography, because Brian is a residential, commercial, retail photographer, and his work is phenomenal, but also his clients are very cool. And I will link his information for you. He travels. He doesn't just stay in New York area, but he does some really, really cool projects. So when he and I recorded a podcast episode, because he also produces that for the Long Island chapter of IDS, and that's how we connected. He interviewed me the day before the actual presentation, and we had a great conversation about just where AI was at that time, and that was a year ago, so it's come a long way. And Brian and I have actually partnered up over the past year to teach AI for photographers. So he comes from a podcast and educational background in the photography industry. And so he had asked if maybe I would, be interested in teaching AI for photographers with him. And we did. We taught quite a bit. And hopefully, again, we'll do another class. But him and I partnered to teach this photography class virtually. And also he got me in front of some other really great photographers in Vegas and just cool stuff. So he's really great and well connected. But we got to, teach this class together. And Brian he's cool because he nerds out about all this AI stuff with me. And I just love that. So he'll send me like, hey, I just did this cool thing. Or, hey, I just had ChatGPT build out the whole baseball schedule of for my son's Little League team, and create all of the players' information, like when they're going to be playing and stuff. So he's like always sending me these really cool use cases. But when we taught the class together, it wasn't about me teaching you how to be a photographer. Like, I'm not a photographer. Why would I teach you that? So I teach photographers and other industries through a lot of different private sessions that I actually don't often talk about here or on social media. But I work with a lot of photographers to teach back-end AI information. I'm not teaching you how to take photos. I'm teaching you how to, better your back end of your business and use AI and see what's available and what makes sense for you to use. So just like I do with designers, I've been also dabbling with photographers. And that all kind of came to be through Brian's connections. So this is a great conversation, not just for photographers, but for everybody in the interior design industry. Brian brings a lot of different perspectives in our conversation today. So I hope you enjoy it and leave us some comments. I really want to hear what you guys have to say about this one. All right, I'll talk to you later.
Uploaded your transcript from last.
Hey, Brian, thanks for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. We've been kind of in the same circles for a year now? Since I met you at IDS Long Island?
Yes, it's been
last summer.
Yeah, last summer. It's been about a year. We've done our own work together for photographers, and now you're back for on the IDS podcast, so it's pretty exciting.
Yeah. If you guys don't listen to the IDS podcast, Brian produces this for Long Island chapter, right?
Yeah, so it's definitely has a tendency of leaning towards Long Island based topics, and we obviously all the interviews and stuff are mostly Long Island based, except for you. And a few others, but I mean, stuff is relevant, I guess, to pretty much anyone who's doing design work. So
yeah, Okay, awesome. Well, I'll link it below. But before we get into all this, like, tell us what you do and your backstory.
So I'm a photographer, and majority of my work is interior design, a little bit of architecture, and a little bit of retail spaces. So I've been in the photography industry since for 30 years. So since I'm literally 10, 12 years old, something like that. I'm a second generation photographer, so I've been in it for a while. Did my stint in weddings and events like most photographers start off with. And then by a stroke of luck and a few happy accidents, I ended up figuring out that there's a whole other side of the commercial industry where you can shoot physical spaces, and transitioned into real estate originally. And then eventually that segued into shooting for architects and interior designers. So that pretty much makes up majority of my work now on Long Island is interior design work.
Wow. And I need you to say a few of your really cool projects. Like, can you mention a few of the places that you shot before? Because I know you do really cool work.
Well, I mean, so I do retail work too. A lot of retail spaces. I somehow found this small little niche shooting retail and got in through, like I said, a couple of happy accidents and strokes of good luck, which can be a longer conversation for another time. But got into a project with Gucci out here on Long Island when they needed to shoot their store, and I ended up shooting that project for them. And that over the last 5 or 6 years basically snowballed into this crazy niche of shooting retail projects for these global brands all over the world. So now I'm pretty much traveling North America shooting for Gucci, Rolex, Louis Vuitton, Chanel, Burberry, all these brands. It's pretty
awesome.
interesting, pretty fun. It's definitely a unique niche, but I enjoy it. I get to see a lot of these random cities that I would not otherwise go to in North America. I was in Arkansas for Rolex.
Really?
Yeah, earlier this year, and it wasn't even like Little Rock. It was some small little town outside of Fayetteville, Arkansas, around that area. And I would never otherwise ever have gone there in my life. So it's pretty neat where I get to go to these small little cities and, obviously wealthy cities because these bigger luxury brand names are there, and shoot for these brands. It's pretty neat.
Very cool. And you told me Vermont you're going to, where I'm from.
I'm going next month to Burlington, Vermont, which I've been to before for Rolex, and I'm going back to recapture the store because they had a redesign. I was there in 2020, and now I'm going back to recapture it, and I love it. I love Vermont. It's a beautiful city.
Yeah, I'm from Burlington. Yep. So I'm excited to see your pictures when you're done.
Yeah.
Take me back. That would be nice. All right, cool. So thanks for sharing your backstory with us. I actually didn't know all of that, so that's really cool to listen to. So you also work with designers on occasion too, like higher end designers for residential.
Yeah. So when I'm not doing retail, I'm pretty much filling in those gaps for designers. Next week coming up, I have a big interior design shoot at a restaurant in New York City. So that's strictly for the interior designer. So those other dates are basically filled in with interior design work.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay. So let's talk about how you're using AI a little bit, because I teach AI for photographers thanks to you. That wasn't a niche that I pursued, but we met, and then you were just kind of like, you need to teach like the back end stuff to photographers, which got me, in front of a lot of different audiences and exposed to a lot of different communities, which has been really cool. But it goes to show that like using AI on the back end of our businesses is the same for every creative business, and that it's needed and not necessarily something that is taking over like photo editing. And maybe it is for you, but like the way that you do your job is not replacing that. It's helping you with the back end pieces that were monotonous but necessary in your business. So can you speak on maybe a few different ways that you're using AI?
Yeah, it's definitely not replacing your job. And I know when AI started getting big, what was it 2, 3, 4 years ago, there was a big uproar in the photo community, especially interior design and architectural photographers. Are we going to be sort of obsolete in a few years because AI can do this? But I feel like, first of all, what AI can do with a digital render, even no matter how photorealistic they are now, is not going to ever replace what we're doing, which is literally documenting a finished space. Or depending on how you look at it, providing you content to market your business. So AI is never going to replace that. And then the same thing, I forgot who said this quote, but I heard a quote that said, AI is never going to replace creativity. It's just going to replace efficiency.
Mm-hmm.
which holds true. But no matter what business you're in, especially if you're creative, whether you're an interior designer, whether you're a photographer, I think a lot of the way we all run our businesses have similarities and there are parallels no matter what business you're in, whether it's client communication, whether it's the way we market using social media. I'm marketing my business very similarly to the way you might market your interior design business. I mean, the point is to show off our work. That's what we're doing, and to market our work to other potential clients. So for me, the most part, the biggest thing I'm using AI for is to do that type of stuff for me, is to help it on the back end, most specifically with marketing. So I'm using it for social media. And we spoke earlier, and there are new ways that I might start utilizing that over the next couple of weeks. But social media, blog posting, even my emails and my client communications, I'm using it for that. And it's just helping me write more polished emails and sound a lot more professional. Because I know for me specifically, especially when it's 9 o'clock at night and I'm returning emails after I got my 3 kids to bed and I'm just exhausted. I'm just lazy with my writing and the way I want to present myself. And I just throw something together quick just because I need to respond to somebody. But now I can run it through an AI GPT that I created just to kind of polish it up and make it sound better. And, my half asleep email that I wrote that sounds awful off the bat now sounds a lot more professional and something that I'm proud to send out to somebody.
That's awesome. Okay. So, I mean, things that like everybody that's listening as a business owner or just somebody that works in a job can do,
Mhm.
right? Because a lot of
Yeah.
us just send emails all day.
No,
uh,
exactly. And it's I don't even use it now for just my professional emails. I mean, I almost use it for when I'm sending out personal emails to my kids' school or whatever, just to like forget making it sound nicer, just to proofread.
yeah.
Did I make grammatical errors in this email? Did I make typos that I just didn't even notice before
Yep.
I send it out? Just make sure it looks good and presentable.
Mm-hmm. You ever leave those in when you like do stuff on social media? Because I always notoriously have had typos. Like I'm a terrible typer and I also can't
Mhm.
spell. So I will leave some in sometimes, especially if I'm like revising something that AI like fixed for me and I'm like, "Oh, there's a quick typo. I'm going to leave it in because people will catch it. It's good for engagement because they want to comment on it and to be like point it
Yeah.
out for you. And also it shows that you're human and you didn't just use AI to write all of that.
Yeah, so
Just
I
me.
never do it on purpose. Occasionally I'll do it and then reread it later and realize that I made a typo and I'll go back in and edit it. So
Oh, you do
yeah,
edit it. Okay.
yeah. So it's never done consciously.
Yeah.
But in the same sense, most of my captions up until we were talking earlier where I might change my workflow a little bit, most of my captions have been generated by AI and I have to go in obviously and just adjust it a little because even though my chat GPT knows my brand voice based on the stuff that you taught me, actually,
hmm
a lot of times it doesn't sound like me. It
Yeah.
doesn't sound like the way I would actually ever talk unless I was writing a really descriptive essay. And I don't
Right.
write those.
Yep.
So I don't
Yep.
write those. So, I'll post a picture of a space and sometimes the chat GPT will spit out talking about how it reminds it of Rembrandt lighting. And I'm like, I don't need to write that.
Yeah.
That's not normal. No one needs to hear about that. So yeah, I'll go and usually edit it and kind of humanize it if that's the right term and make
Yeah.
it sound a little bit more like a person speaking.
hmm
So typically, yeah, I didn't have typos because I'm just fixing what ChatGPT will give out to me. But I'm going to start kind of utilizing probably for my next post what you spoke about of doing like voice to text
hmm
and then using that to rewrite my captions. So it does sound a little bit more like me.
Yeah. Yeah. And so we just recorded a podcast episode for the Long Island IDS. I will also link that so you guys can listen to that episode. It's our second. We actually met a year ago. And so a lot of things have changed on that. But what we were discussing is basically like how I don't use AI to write my captions for social media because I personally am like over the AI and the amount of like fakeness that there is on social media. So for me, I have always written my captions. I used AI to find hashtags when that was relevant, but now it's not really relevant for hashtags. So I do a voice to text. And that's how I write it so that it's me speaking. And then I basically use, the meta correction where it will go through and just like make everything sound better after that. So voice
Sure.
to text. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what better way to really hone in on your brand voice than you actually
Mhm.
speaking?
Exactly. And you know the story, right? So like if you're sharing anything online, you're probably sharing it to tell a story about what you do for your job, which relates and should resonate with people. So you want it to come with context of like how you used it. And AI is not going to know that. So you have to tell
Yep.
it. So speaking of marketing and using social media, is there like how are you using it right now? Are you using it to find clients or have clients find you or
Yeah, I feel like for me, social media, and I'm speaking specifically about Instagram. I really don't
Mhm.
even use Facebook anymore. The only time I use Facebook, it's unfortunate because I'm on a lot of Facebook groups, and I do
Yeah.
find that a lot of those groups are helpful. And there was a
Mhm.
point in time where Facebook actually had a groups app. I don't know if
Yeah.
you remember this, where you
No,
can
and I had
actually,
a group. I didn't know that
yeah,
was a thing.
no, they had a groups app where you can just go in and just see all the stuff from all the groups you're part of. And it was perfect because then I never had to go on Facebook. I can just go to the groups and just kind of follow along there. And they got
Wow.
rid of it for some reason.
That's all I use it for now too.
Well, exactly. And that app was incredible because I never actually had to go onto the app,
Mhm.
but they did away with it. But yeah, I'm not really on Facebook other than just kind of going into the groups I'm part of and just seeing what's going on in the industry.
Mhm.
But it's mostly Instagram and LinkedIn for that matter. Also,
Mhm.
I'm big on LinkedIn, and I probably actually make more connections on LinkedIn for my business than
Mhm.
an Instagram, which is odd because you would think as a photographer, Instagram is better for me, and it probably is. But the algorithms are so wonky. You know, like I'll put a post and it'll get thousands of views, and then I'll put a post 2 days later and it'll get 300. So
Yeah.
it's like
Random.
it's
It's
random, and
annoying.
social media is a weird thing because it's like you can't control who sees your work,
Mhm.
which is very strange concept to me. But we still do it, and we have to do it.
Mhm.
So I don't post nearly as much as I used to. I mean, there was a point in time where I was posting daily.
Mhm.
Now I do post stories a lot just because they're easier, but
Yeah.
I'm not actually making posts maybe once or twice a month with
Mhm.
work. But I sort of look at Instagram for me, which I think is similar to the way designers, I would imagine, do it or should do it, is just an extension of my portfolio. You know, a lot of people say I should probably get myself in front of the camera more of my personality, but like I just don't utilize it that way. I just sort of
Mhm.
utilize an extension of my portfolio. You go to my website and you'll see 30 to 40 of my best images I've taken, but you go on Instagram and you'll see work that I'm doing now, you
Yeah.
know, every month.
Mhm.
And obviously I'm not posting every month. I'm not updating my portfolio every month on my website. You know, I
Mhm.
do that once or twice a year. But if you want to see the type of work I'm doing now, the type of work I'm shooting now, what did I shoot
Mhm.
last week or 2 weeks ago? That's where you can see that type of stuff on Instagram. So
Yeah.
it's just an
So
extension of seeing newer work, basically, for me.
and to follow you in your stories and see you like out in the wild doing your job,
Yes,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
That's where I post a lot of the behind the scenes. I don't really do it in my posts, but it's more so on my stories, and you
Yeah.
can kind of see what I'm shooting, where I'm shooting, what city I might end up in.
Mhm. Very cool. I feel like that's kind of just what it's become now, and it's always been like that, right? So, like on our website, like it's all formal, and here's how you work with me, and here's a preview of everything. But then if you go to socials, like that for me is what was always my deciding factor. Like if I go to your Instagram and it resonates with me, that's how I'm going to choose to hire you or not. So,
Hmm.
still doing that and bringing the personal touch through stories and stuff is very
Yeah,
smart. I mean, that's what people are doing now.
yeah. I just have to get in front of the camera more, like you do.
Ugh, it's hard though.
It is hard, and I feel like it's a full time job in itself.
It is. Yep. It took me
But
3 years to feel comfortable being on a camera, and
well, I have no problem being in front of the camera, like
yeah.
we're here now, and you know,
Mhm.
I've done a podcast for the photo industry for years, going back, you know, 7, 8 years ago.
Mhm.
It's just finding the time to just sit down and
Mm.
get and produce content. You know,
Yeah.
I'd rather spend the time just, I don't know,
Not doing that.
pursuing,
Doing
not doing
anything
that, or
else.
exactly, or just, you know, finding new leads or work
Mhm.
organically. I guess I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. So do you find that a lot of your work comes in word of mouth still?
Depends on the type of work.
Mhm.
So my retail work is mostly word of mouth. The
Mhm.
retail world is a very small, very strange industry as far as the people that hire me. I know this is more geared towards interior designers, so I'll be brief on this, but
But
it's
some
more
have
so,
showrooms in
yeah.
retail. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's more in the luxury retail world. The people that are hiring me are basically PR people, marketing people, or visual merchandisers, VM,
Mm.
who are responsible for kind of setting up the store and making it look the way it's supposed to look.
Mhm.
And it's a very small industry in the luxury brand world, and there's a lot of turnover. So a lot of that work comes from people just moving laterally to different brands within the companies or to different companies. And that's how I've been able to build a lot of my clients, just people shifting from one company to another, and they like working with you as a vendor, and they just bring you to the next company. With interior design, a lot of the work has come from IDS, believe it or not, which I think is important. Is there's a lot of networking potential there. Just a matter of the minimal social media I do, because I'm sort of, I guess, SEOing a lot of the work for regionally based work, whether it's, tagging locations in my shoots and stuff like that, Long Island based. And then
social?
a little bit of on social. Yeah. And then the final piece is SEO. And I do get a nice chunk of my work directly from my website. I've been ranking pretty well for Long Island for years, probably since I started my website, because that's where I started at the beginning. And like I was telling you earlier, over the last year and a half, I made a conscious effort to start also focusing on New York City. And right now, about a year later, because it does take that long for Google to start catching up and realize, okay, you also do work in New York City.
Yep.
I'm starting to get a lot of those calls for New York. Next week I have 2 New York City shoots, which is not as easy as Long Island, but I'm pretty close. I'm about 17, 18 miles from the city, from Manhattan. So it's not so bad.
And how much time is 17 or 18
miles?
It depends. Like 2 hours?
It's funny. It depends when. My shoot next Wednesday, I was telling you I'm doing a restaurant shoot for an interior designer. That's like a 10:30 a.m. shoot. And yeah, that's going to be about 2 hours. My shoot Friday, I'm shooting, I have to shoot at sunrise, which is like 5:30 in the morning now.
Oh my God.
So
you're going to be up in the middle of the night?
Yeah, it's going to be a 3 a.m. wake up probably. Okay. Leave the house at 3:30, wake up, leave the house at 4, get to set up and be ready to go by 5.
Okay.
But it'll take me 35 minutes at that point, 40 minutes, because it's that early and no one's on the road at that point.
Yeah, that's nice. Nice. Okay, so you're using SEO, you're using social media, you got a little word of mouth going on. So when you're using SEO on your website, you're putting things like as alt text behind your images? Is that primarily what you're doing to say, like, here's what this image is and also the location in which I'm working? So
it's a combination of alt text and my blog posting. So I try to be strategic with my blog posting to sort of encompass all the different genres of photography I do, whether it's retail, architecture, or interior design. And then I also try to be strategic with making sure the locations are evident from my posts. The type of work I do is evident from my posts. And especially the images, even though some people say keep it very generic, I guess, with what you actually see, I try to add some keywords that don't sound like I'm keyword spamming in there to make sure that Google sort of realizes what I am trying to show. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I'm having ChatGPT do most of that work for me. As far as alt text, blog posting, I've ChatGPT has been writing blog posts. I've created custom GPTs that you've taught me how to do. I have a blog post GPT essentially where I literally upload the images I'm going to post. I just say who the client was and the type of shoot. Let's say it was an interior design shoot and the location, and it will spit out for me a 500-word blog post, which that's what I usually have to go in and kind of fix up because it sounds very AI, but it'll spit out a 500-word blog post. It'll spit out an SEO title, an SEO description, a URL slug, all SEO friendly. All text for all the images and all that. We'll do that all automatically. So all I got to do is upload the 10 or so images, who the client was, what type of job it was, and where it was, and it'll just handle all that for me. So it's pretty neat.
Awesome. And we just were talking about like voice clips because I like to write my blogs using my voice first. And so I do a note transcription and then that's how I like turn it into that. So supplementing the images and the context just by saying your voice, it will grab your brand voice because the way you speak, but also like more context from the stories. So
yeah, I'm going to try it. I actually do like it. And I think it's going to sound a little bit more human and a little bit more like me and a little bit more on par with my brand voice than what my ChatGPT thinks is my brand voice.
Yeah. Yeah. And then less like fill in the blanks where it thinks that it needs to talk about Rembrandt style and whatever for the lighting. Yeah, it's actually like legitimate stuff, which is building your brand authority, which is what AI SEO is looking for with all these AI search engines.
No, and I think that's important because, if I'm posting, for instance, on social media, the people that follow me are either other photographers or potential client interior designers or architects pretty much. So I don't think they really care about how the light, I mean, some photographers might, little like techie, nerdy photographers might care about that stuff. But, how I achieve the light, I know interior designers don't care how I got the shot. They just want to know that it's a good shot and it represents their work. So I think if it's a little more real with, like you said, the story, I think that makes more sense to what the viewers want to see versus how I achieved it. Unless I specifically was running a photography account where they would actually want to hear about how I achieved the shots.
Right. And it's also nice now because Instagram is cataloging their posts now in Google, in search engines.
That's what I heard. I actually heard that. Yeah. And on that note, I actually went back into my last few posts and sort of keyword spammed a little bit, but with but not being overly done where because I don't know, I think it was the CEO of Instagram a couple of months ago said hashtags are pretty much done and you don't really need them. But now I went back in and added some hashtags essentially as keywords because now Google is indexing those posts. So even though they're not really relevant to Instagram, I want Google to pick up those hashtags and see them and say, okay, this is relevant to interior design photography, or this is relevant to Long Island interior designers and stuff like that.
Yeah. So it's now pulling more. So like the longer description that you have, and don't just like use, not you, but everybody, don't just like go and use AI to write the longest caption that you can so that hopefully it shows up in search engines because it has a lot of keywords and sentences there. Like still make it legit, still make it sound like you and give good advice and good context, but you should consider like the length of those captions now because that is pulling even more search engine optimization through these searches for your social media.
Yeah, I also think, Google and now especially with the use of Gemini and AI and this type of stuff, I think it's sophisticated enough to know when you're actually writing a real caption or you're just trying to spam. and it'll know if you're trying to spam. It'll see it and maybe rank you lower stuff. Because I know my brother does internet marketing and SEO, and he's been telling me for years, like, you can't trick Google anymore like you used to. I remember 15, 20 years ago where you'd literally like with the same color as your background. Remember, you write in white text, you'd hide like every city you want to work with and all these keywords, and like people got away with it.
Yeah.
Google didn't know any better, but now you can't do that stuff anymore. So
yeah, it knows now. And it's picking up on authority. Now it's picking up on do you actually know what you're talking about and not just was AI writing this for you. Okay, so I just want to wrap it up with the IDS podcast and how you might be using for podcasting AI and different technology for that.
Yeah, so I have a custom GPT, which I created in ChatGPT for the IDS podcast. And essentially once we edit, well, first of all, I'm using AI to edit. So I edit with Adobe Premiere, and there's an AI plugin that I use called Autopod. I don't know if you're familiar with Autopod?
No, because we're shooting in Riverside and Riverside does it all for me. So I keep it super basic.
So most of my episodes are in person. So when they're in person, it's different. For this one, the one we did earlier, it's Riverside. It'll do it itself. But when we're shooting in person, I'm able to, because I use video and audio as separate channels with Autopod, I'm able to assign which camera angle. We shoot with 3 different camera angles, which camera angle goes with which audio file. And the AI detects when each person is speaking and it automatically cuts to that person. Oh, nice. So you can tell it like, camera 1 is a wide shot, camera 2 is Jenna, camera 3 is Brian, and then it'll detect on the audio file when each person is speaking and automatically cuts. So what used to take me hours to literally manually cut now is done in probably under 2 minutes. Now I do rewatch and review it just to make sure there's nothing that has to be shifted, but it's really increasing the speed that we're able to edit these episodes significantly. And since I'm using Premiere, what I'm able to do then from Premiere is just export a transcript of the entire episode, which I use Premiere, but there's thousands of other platforms that can do that now. Run it through a custom GPT I created, and essentially from the transcript, it'll create an episode title. It'll create show notes, including any relevant links that we speak about. It'll include SEO title, SEO description, and URL slug for our hosting platform when we post it. And I think since we are on YouTube, it also gives me a YouTube friendly description and YouTube title, because we put our episodes on YouTube as well.
And this is your instructions that you gave your custom GPT to do just based off your transcript? Is that what you said?
Correct.
Or the
So
program
all I literally do is upload the transcript file and just say interview was with Jenna from AI for Interior Designers, and that's it.
Well, that's
and
awesome.
Then it just goes from there. I say interview was with Jenna because I want to put your full name in, so it doesn't have to try to determine the spellings of your name. I want to be able to just have everything done and make sure it's done right, and then it just spits everything out in a minute. So
that's awesome.
From the IDS podcast side of things, that's what we're doing, and it's saved me a significant amount of time from the editing side of things with Autopod, and now with the show notes, I don't have to sit here and dissect. And I'm not a writer. I don't want to even attempt to write 250, 500 word show notes. It just does it for me, and I just manually adjust anything that I have to. It actually does a much better job, the show notes, than my blog posts. Because it's a transcript versus just looking and dissecting an image and trying to explain what the image is. But it definitely does a better job sounding human with the show notes than it does with my images or my blog posts.
Imagine that. Pull it from human transcript. That's funny. All right. So I love all of that because I started this podcast, and the only reason why I did this is because I had AI built into Riverside that would do it for me. I have no business editing and making a podcast, but because AI is here, I was able to do it. Definitely not as fancy as you. You got the whole setup and
But what I'm doing is not that. I mean, the video side of things, I guess recording is fancy, but look, I'm a photographer and I went to film school, so I have that background. But nevertheless, the post-production side of things is, like I said, I'm utilizing a lot of AI, so a lot of it's being automated. So while I do have to put in, an hour and a half of time to each episode, it's better than the 4 to 5 hours I would have had to put in if AI is not here.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I would never have started a podcast before all of this. It was time for that. You have to pay somebody, for sure, to get all that done. But anyway, this has been a great conversation.
That's the power of AI. Look, it opens opportunities that weren't there for you.
I know. At every corner. Yeah. And doing things that as creatives, we just don't want to do, but we have to in order for us to get clients, just play the game. Yep. Okay. Well, that's all I had for notes to chat about today. Anything else you want to add?
No, I appreciate you having me on. It's been fun.
Yeah. I mean, we're always chatting.
Nice being on the other side of the call for once. But sounds good.
Cool. Thank you for being here, Brian. I will link all your stuff because I think you're a wonderful photographer, and I think designers, not just in the New York area, need to know what you do because you do travel too. So I'll make sure that's linked here.
I appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Thanks for listening to today's episode of the AI for Interior Designers podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and tune in next week for more AI tips for your design business. See you next time.